Technology is the most powerful change in the world of education.
Everything changes.
Welcome to the Emerging Technologies in Education podcast, delivered to you by Clever Books Company. Dear listeners, thank you very much for joining the Emerging Technologies in Education podcast series. And I would like to introduce a new guest today, Yael. And I want to give Yael the couple of words to introduce herself, which country she's from, and what she's doing. Here you go, Yael.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Daria. So my name is Yael, as you said, Yael Doron Drori. I'm from Israel and I'm self-employed now, working as a consultant and a lecturer on innovation, education, and technology. Just finished a few years adventures as an education lead in Google in Israel. And before that, I've been the pedagogical director at Education Cities, which is a company that helps municipalities to innovate their education system. And actually, I'm in education for the last 20 years, started as a consultant at schools. So I know the education system kind of inside out from many views and point of views. So that's me. I'm a geek. I love technology. I love to learn and to try things out. So now I'm working on it and with it. So it's fun.
This is absolutely amazing. I hear now that you have really a massive experience behind you in terms of technology, in terms of education. Can you elaborate a little bit more then about your attitude towards using technology in the classroom? Maybe as I imagine you're working as a consultant for schools and talking about how to use technology. So maybe you can also elaborate a little bit more on which technologies would you recommend to use at schools and why?
Okay, so I want to start in the point in time when technology and education, and actually it's not only technology and education, it's more of innovation, has got me really interested in that field. I think it was about 7 or 8 years ago, because I started, as I told you before, I'm a geek. So I was very interested in all this innovation front coming. I started to hear about the maker movement, and TED was coming out, and Flipped Classroom, and Khan Academy, and all of that, and MOOCs. And I was kind of thinking, this is an area that has or kind of brings up really big questions for us as educators, not only within the classroom and which technology, but the entire area that the world is changing so rapidly. And I was really hooked on that. So I was kind of interested in innovation and not innovation in education to start with. Because, you know, when you see the innovation front and what is happening with do-it-yourself biology and hackers and so on, there's a lot of big question about what are schools for in the 21st century, and what do we need the kids to learn. And that's kind of before of all these 21st century skills came out and so on. Or maybe they came out, but I hadn't known them yet. So. And from that, I kind of got immersed in innovation, technology, and education. And only from there, I got to specific technologies. So I think for us as educators, we must have a more kind of 30,000-mile point of view when we approach technology, because it's not only a tactical question, which technology and which tool and so on and so forth, but more of a kind of an essence question, because technology is transforming our world, and as educators, we have to be relevant to the world. And we can also use and learn from technology, not only from the tools themselves, but also from the movement. You know, if you think about collaborative economy and Airbnb and so on, then you can take this principle and have it as a guide for yourself to innovate in the classroom within, with or without technology. You can think about Web 2.0, you know, connectivity and knowledge that is, you know, created by the masses, and take these principles into your pedagogy, even without technology. But it's from your dialogue with innovation and technology and this kind of new front that you can be relevant and do things and be more creative. And the question about technologies and which of them are good for schools and so on is only the next question in my eyes.
What can you tell me a little bit more on what you are doing exactly as a consultant? Are you advising some specific technologies at schools, or you're consulting them in how to start using them? What exactly is you're doing now?
Do I do? Okay, so first of all, I'm new at this. It's only been a month, so I'm kind of playing with it and seeing what's you know, what's interesting and what I can accomplish and what value can I bring to people. But for now, it's kind of I have like different areas. First of all, I teach at a master program at the University of Bar Ilan on innovation in education for teachers who's doing their master's degree in Bible education. And I lecture a lot on innovation and learning, not only in education, but also in all kinds of fields, because learning has become so important for companies as well, that that's kind of another front. But beside that, I made a new creativity tool. It's kind of a cards kit that helps people to innovate, inspired by technology, but it's kind of, you know, low tech, no tech actually. It's cards that help people to innovate and think differently and have a more creative mindset. And the last thing I do is no, it's not the last thing I do. I consult edtech companies and play with a new it's a gamification platform, which is based on location. So it's geolocation platform that you can top any kind of content on it and create games. Because and I think that kind of leads us to your question from before, because I think gaming and gamification is a really, really interesting promise for education regarding technologies. And it's a field I'm really interested in.
That sounds really interesting. Can you tell me, like you mentioned the product that you created, can you tell me a little bit more about this product, what it does exactly? And I think we can share maybe some links where people can get the product.
Yeah, it's really at the beginning of development. I'm, you know, working on my site and so on. But I think a lot of people want to be more creative, and they need help in doing that, because we are really we are people, and we have habits, thought habits, and we find it difficult to change our mindsets. And I think that when educators specifically, I think, but all people, want to innovate and don't know how, a lot of the time they go and use tools or specific methods, and that's great. It has a lot of place within the classroom, but it's not transforming their way of thinking. And you need to learn to be much more agile in the way you think, So I kind of made a kit with 10 cards that has technology icons on them, like search and profile and settings and share and link and so on. And I use them as a language, as symbols, to spark new kind of thinking within your own mind. So you can, if you approach a new lesson and you want to think differently than what you're accustomed to do. So you can take 2 cards and they spark new questions in your mind, like a location. You can ask yourself, what's the relevant of this subject to my community? Or what kind of physical attribute can I add to this kind of lesson? Or you can take a link and ask yourself, what is this subject linked to? Is it linked to previous materials within the program, or to other things from other subjects? Or maybe I can link someone that I know that is interested in this subject, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of simple rules and endless possibilities. That's my motto. And it helps people to train their mind to be more open and creative. I'm really happy about that, but it's not, I think it's relevant to the innovation front more than the technology. And I think that technology role in education is, for me, it's really, really clear. I think technology technology role is to make our education system much more humane. And people sometimes find that sentence a bit unclear, and I don't really understand why. Technology can help us free time. As teachers and educators, we do a lot of mechanical essence of actions, and technology can help us do that more efficiently and save us time. That's a very easy role that we can understand. And the other kind of bunch of things that technology can do in education is to make our human presence much more deep and wide. So if I can learn in many paths, express yourself in many different ways, so your inner self is much more evident and much more presence. And today, I think that personalization in education is not a new thing, but the option for us as teachers and educators to do that within the classroom has never been much more easy. Okay, so we're talking about personalization for years. Dewey and Vygotsky are not 21st century people, but our day-to-day ability to accomplish that with our learners is much, much higher than ever before. And I think that's the promise. And this transition of humanity from being passive to being more active, to being more, you can see it in so many areas, being, entrepreneurs and even social activism and also how do you say when you take care of the environment, sustainability, and so on. People are being more proactive and active, and you can see that kind of sense of movement coming into education as well. So I think technology has a lot. It's like sweets. I feel like a kid in a sweet shop. I think teachers can, if they approach technology with the right attitude, it's like a playing ground. It's like, amusement park for them, because anything that they can think about and want to do pedagogically, they can do in so many ways and in such cool, you know, ways, and they have so many possibilities. That's so exciting. So that's kind of my 2 cents about technology in education in a nutshell.
Yeah, that sounds interesting and good point. And taking advantage that you are based in Israel and you are on the side of the teacher, you're on the side of technology. Can you share a little bit your point of view on how do you feel the technology is implemented in educational sector in Israel? How is it going, and where do you see the future for which technology?
I think that what's interesting in what we're doing here is letting the teachers lead. I think teachers and school principals are the leaders of this change and should be the leaders and designers of this change. And I'm very happy to see in the last few years a transformation within the kind of way that the Ministry of Education is approaching this. Not only being, you know, the head of the system and saying what should be around and how to do everything, but giving much more place to the people on the field to set their own paths and lead the way and share their knowledge and their practice and there are a lot of educational entrepreneurs which are specific. They can be specific teachers, but they can also be schools, communities, cities, and so on. And I think that's a very interesting and sustainable way to lead the way to this kind of chaotic future, because the right answer is gone. There's no right answer anymore. The school answer, you know. And there's multiple of answers, and the right answer is changing via context. You know, on one lesson with specific class, the right answer will be X, and on another lesson with another class, the right answer can be Y for the same question, and that's kind of the same mind shift that I was speaking about earlier. So in Israel, I think that entrepreneurship, which is a part of our culture, as you know, is showing itself in education, and change led by teachers and principals is very right way to move forward, as I see it.
That's really interesting because it's a lot of movement going on, and some people are saying, well, this is really great, this is really interesting. Some people are saying, oh, I don't know, I don't feel like it's in my comfort zone to go ahead and use technology in the classroom. We have recently also conducted a research among the teachers. It was over 100 respondents all over the world, and those like we got an absolutely amazing results, and
Mm-hmm.
the the majority of respondents are saying that they're a little bit cautious about using technology in the classroom because sometimes they feel like, okay, I might fail in front of the students if something is not working. Some people say it's outside my comfort zone. Some people say they're lacking training in using technology in the classroom. Some are saying like it's the cost and something else. And the interesting thing that many of them are actually into using augmented reality, virtual reality, 3D printing in the classroom as a new technology is coming up. So what would be your
Mm-hmm.
point of view? Why would people not want to use technology in the classroom?
Yeah. So I think you pointed that out. I think people are people everywhere in the world, and we usually don't like change. We don't like to get out of our comfort zone. And I think I'll risk and say that a lot of teachers has kind of forgot the pleasure of being learners. They are not accustomed to being ongoing learners, which is the most important thing in the 21st century. And it's a difficult transition. But I always say that I really like so I'm always saying embrace a mindset of doing better version of whatever it is you're doing, because when you do better, then people are really eager to participate in beta versions, because they want to be new, and they want to influence. They have meaning because they are the first user, they are part of community and so on. And if you're going to try something new and you want to be successful and to be as you are used to be within the area of your practice, then there's a lot of anxiety. But if you come to your kids to the class and say, listen, today they will have a beta version class. This will not work. Something will crash. It might be stuck, but tell me at the end of the lesson what you thought about it, and we'll kind of figure it out together. Then your degree of freedom to make mistake is much bigger, and you engage the students because they have meaning. They're participating in the learning, and on the other hand, they are looking at the learning because they have to give feedback. So you're doing metacognition, engagement, setting an example of trying and getting out of the comfort zone, which is a very important educational role of teachers, specifically in our times. So you're doing all of that and having fun, because if you fail, that's totally fine, because it's a beta version, Beta will always crush your computer or phone or whatever. So it's expected of you to fail. And that makes everything fine. So I think you can embrace this kind of way of thinking in order to help yourself move forward and be more agile.
Thank you very much. I think it's very inspiring what you just said. It needs you can always fail, and I think it's normal to fail because we're all humans, and it's absolutely fine not to be ideal. You can't be ideal, and you can't know the answers to all the questions in the world, but you need to be able to find them, and this is I think the most important point. I would like to thank you very much, Yael, for your time and precious ideas that you shared. Really appreciate it, and I wish you to have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me.
Everything changes.